Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Chris and welcome to the great outdoors, guys. It's I think it's about it's 8:25 a.m. I've just come home from the gym. The family's still asleep inside, so I thought what better thing to do on a Saturday morning than to record another amazing podcast for you folks. Here we are. Yeah, Supercoach is open, guys. Pretty exciting time to be alive. Um, Teams changed quite a bit all preseason. I've gone in and out of picks. Some picks I love, some picks I hate, some picks I have just because they represent value. And look, it's been I think every preseason we go through this, right? You start off with this stupidly mid-priced heavy team. You wind it back a little bit. You go through and you evaluate your structure and what you want to be able to do. And right now, I'm kind of in that. I feel like I've got the perfect structure right now with my team. And there's a couple of things I want to highlight. So, with the way that these buys are early in the season, that you want to try and maximize them, um, there's a few things that we can do in order to do that. I think it's the most important thing to do is to get the best, highest performing premiums that you possibly can on your field for those first four rounds. So obviously the buys are in rounds two, three, and four. It is best 18. What that means is the more high-end premium scorers that you can get on your 18, the more you're going to be able to separate yourselves from the pack very early on, and it represents a great opportunity. So, as stupid as it sounds, starting someone without that has those buys is really counterproductive. There are situations where there's a lot of value anyway, and you kind of just have to. Um, which I understand and I get. I totally get that. And there's some players that I really want to pick that I'm unable to at the moment, and we'll see how we go closer to the season. But my thoughts are at the moment, you want to try and maximize as much as you possibly can. Non-buy players, people with high ceilings, and go from there. So this is the best attempt that I've had so far. I do feel like this is pretty valuable. And I see in here, obviously, and it's a little bit clickbaity, I guess, 15 premium teams. So when we talk about premiums, what we're ultimately talking about is people that we have in our team that we don't have to trade out because they are going to be averaging premium numbers. So not necessarily premium price, but people who I believe I am going to keep for the season. That's essentially what that tagline means. So it doesn't have to be a specific price point or anything like that. It's just, okay, these guys are guys that I think that will average well enough to be keepers for the entire year. So having 15 of them means that you're kind of set up because you really then only need what, nine more trades? No, eight more premiums to maximize your team. And my goal this year, as opposed to others, is yes, you need to target value and value presents, but I need to get the best of the best on every single line. One thing I have learned in the last couple of years is I've targeted guys that they had their peaks early in the season. I trade them in when they've dropped in price, and then they have their low end. So it's someone like a Matt Rowell, I traded in after his real hot streak in the start of the season, right? And he had a couple of great games towards the back end of the year, but really all of his great scoring was done early, and I traded him in. I didn't get really any of those scores, right? Similarly, you could point to Tom Green as that as well. I waited till he dropped that. He had that five. I didn't. I picked him up after that, and then he was kind of for the rest of the season. So everyone got their good scores early, and I just jumped on too late. So how do I identify that? That's something, unfortunately, I haven't been able to quite master. And I think when I do, I might end up finishing a lot better in Supercoach. But that's the goal: is I need to try and identify who is going to have the better back end of the season. And I know a lot of that is guessing game, but some of it is just watching games, identifying trends, understanding why scoring isn't as high as it should be, or whatever it may be, and then making your call based on that. So without further ado, we'll get into the team, guys. And look, the back line hasn't changed too much. Harry Sheezel, he's never been in a team that I haven't made yet, so he's locked in. Regardless of what position he's playing, I did a bit of a deep dive into Sheezel. Whether he's playing mid, forward, or defense, either he's going to score well, right? And some of his bigger games last year, his 140 pluses, he only had about 40-50% CBAs. So he does not need to be a mainstay center midfielder. Um, Something that's been highlighted a little bit in the practice games so far is that Sheasel has been playing as that sort of half forward that rolls up, which is fine, and he'll get his CBAs, etc. That's all good. It looks like Wardlaw. Potentially Parker might have a little bit more CBAs than we think. And of course LDU, which is who's going to be the primary defender. Sorry, midfielder in over there at the Kangaroos. Now moving on down. Now, what I will do, I will stop and I'll say who I'd rather have. Right. So if you are looking at those players, who I'd rather have is a great little option for you guys at home. Jack Sinclair also hasn't moved. Definitely moving to halfback. So far in match sim has been playing basically all at halfback and virtually no time in the midfield. So that is a move that should yield points. It should mean that he's going to at very least go 110, which is what he averaged last year. We're hoping for say a 5 point bump on that, which would be great and be firmly situated in the top six defenders. But I do love Jack Sinclair. He also doesn't have to buy, which obviously makes it good. Now the third spot is going to be James Sicily. Now this is the first who would I rather have, right? So look, a lot to talk about Sicily about the Hawks with lacking forward options early in the season, and his potential to swing forward. They also have Josh Battle, who is a swingman as well, so they could do that with him. So some of this does hinge on the preseason games and what happens with James Sicily. Here's the thing, like it's always talked about, and yes, he swings forward at times, but it might be for a quarter. He's a defender that swings forward, not a forward that swings back. Let's be honest with that. And I think the one time that he did last year ended up scoring quite well from it anyway. But I understand the trepidation. If he's playing as that main like intercept defender that's not playing on a man, he's shown in the last two seasons before this that he can average 115, which means he's incredible value, right? That's as simple as that. Now, unfortunately, they do have the buy. I think they've got the latest first buy, which is round four. But of the people around this price range, I think that honestly he's the best value. So you look at someone like a Bailey Dale, a Tom Stewart, Max Holmes, um, Kai Wangani Malira, Nick Newman's out, Jordan Ridley potentially, or maybe even Jordan Clark for a little bit more. All of those guys have okay, are these guys really top tier or are there too many issues to worry about? So I'm not, I think that he's the best of that bunch. What I'd rather have is Luke Ryan. So I think he's kind of been forgotten about, right? And there's this big conjecture. Frio last year, their ball movement was stagnant. It's all Luke Ryan's fault. He wants to play the 1-2 game and just chip the ball around and blah, blah, blah. You know what was happened when Luke Ryan was doing that? They were winning football games. You know what happened when they switched to this fast ball movement thing? They went on like a 6 game losing streak. Like, like seriously, like I'm not, and this isn't a exaggeration. They missed finals because they lost so many back end season games, right? When they were winning, at the start of the year, Luke Ryan was just being Luke Ryan. Um, I don't hate the Luke Ryan pick. I actually really, really like it. I just can't squeeze him in because it's $100,000 to get from James Sicily to Luke Ryan, and I need to put that in my team elsewhere. If I do somehow switch around my team and I want a third like ultra premium defender, Luke Ryan would be that guy for me. So keep an eye on that. I've also considered Sam Flanders at this spot, and obviously it's the buy that is the real killer. But I think he's only in 25% of teams, and that's really high. The only reason it's that high is because he's obviously the most expensive defender. So often people just see him and go, "Oh yeah, we'll just start with him." I remember my first year playing Supercoach. I'm like, "Oh cool, like obviously he's good. He's expensive. He must be good." That you'll get a lot of that from entry level players into Supercoach or guys that um, haven't played the game before or anything like that. But you will get, higher tier players such as myself look at that and go, 25% ownership for a guy that averaged 119 last year in playing in multiple different roles all across the field. Yeah, like, if he doesn't have that early buy, I think a lot more people would be starting him, that's for sure. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The next one's obviously Mills. So I do consider Mills. I went back and looked. Like, I'm going to bring this up. So for those that are like questioning Mills, first and foremost, in the intra club the other day, he played at centre. That's a big green flag. Big green flag, in my opinion. Just come over here and have a look at his stats because it's quite ridiculous, right? So um, this is something that where do I go? So his summary. It's different on phone as it is in here. Season stats. No, I want year stats. Career stats. Here we go. And then we go to grades. Okay, cool. So this is his career stats. So outside of last year, if you look at his previous results, so he's averaged 87 once, which was 2023. That was his obviously most recent season where he was playing a lot of wing role. He was coming back from injury, etc. But look at these seasons: 116, 112, 101. Again, he was actually playing as a defender in this season too, and then and 81, right? So of those mid-price guys, he is the only one that really has the potential to be the number one defender this year, which is ridiculous, right? Now, where do I think he probably sits? Is he plays center, and if he gets somewhere between 60 to 65% CBAs, he will go 110 plus quite easily, and he will be a top six defender. I think that is ridiculous value and something you need to get on. Now, unfortunately, obviously, Sydney does have that buy, so you've got to be wary of what you're doing with that. Yeah, Mills is in my team at the moment, and of course as well. And now he's at 52% ownership because Kenyon Coleman re-aggravated or had a setback in his recovery, and now um, he is not uh, got any, unlikely to be playing round one. All right, so there's that. All right, so on to the rookies now. So Travalia looks to be playing as a wing role in the one team in practice matches, so that's a good sign. Obviously, no guarantees for rookies in terms of where they line up. If they line up in round one, there's sub best, especially for young rookies, etc. But they targeted this guy; they really wanted him, so I'm pretty comfortable with him at the moment in my starting D5 position. Look, Sardell Hall is still sitting there. There's a little bit of conjecture, like where does he sit in the Essendon mix? He's been lining up on a wing. Is he going to get some halfback minutes? That would be better for a super coach perspective. But at the moment, 119K for what he can provide is going to be great. I've then gone with James Leake in this these positions. So look, there's quite a few rookies here. These are all interchangeable, of course, but I also like Bustlinger. I think that Bustlinger should be playing this year. And what we've seen from Bevo is that with rookies, at least he likes to give them a shot for an extended period of time, right? So key defender, yeah, I think his third year in the system now. Like he's ready to go. Bustlinger would be a nice one. You've got Zach Reed as well. Essendon obviously got injured last year, and has been in and out of the team, injured, um, also at 119K. You've also got Riley Bice. So Riley Bice here, 113K. He is a mature age recruit, which is why he's interesting. So owned by 20% of the competition at the moment. So I've gone with him at the moment, just because he's mature age, and it's likely that mature ages get more of a run than everybody else, but who knows? All right. Now onto the midfield. All right. So pretty easy. I don't think you. Okay, there's a few reasons. Bont is Bont, right? Let's put that out of the equation. I have been looking at teams to not start Bont, and sometimes when I need cash, yes, I go, all right, we can drop Bont. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, this the best 18 for the first four rounds, right? Do you really want to not be running Bont as everyone's running him as VC, owned by half the competition? You could get really burned really quickly, and there's one that I just don't want to miss, right? There's that. He doesn't have the buy early. Again, they've got a good run, the Dogs. They've got less midfield competition, right? So out goes, I know that they didn't really play as much midfield last year, but out goes McRae. Um, Bailey Smith, obviously, he was out for the whole season. There doesn't seem to be a reason for him to play more forward outside of Jamara Ugle-Hagan, who's now obviously doesn't look like he'll play round one due to off-field issues. So there's a bit of conjecture that they'll throw Bond forward. That's just classic Bevo. But they have a ready-made forward. They picked up a mature age recruit called Sam Davidson in the off season, and I think it's more likely than not that they debut him and run him through as opposed to put Bond forward. So yeah, I think Bond not starting with Bond is going to be risky. Similarly, I think the same about Zach Butters. He's, I think, clear 1A, 1B right there. Um, there will be a time when Zach Butters is the number one super coach player in the competition. No doubt about it, in my opinion. He's that good. Don't, again, start without him with your own peril. This 29% ownership, that is a joke. That's a joke. Have any of you seen Zach Butters play football? Because he's that good. I'm telling you, he's that good. Get him in your team. Now third, I personally feel like these are the three best mids in the comp right now. Well, best super coach picks in the comp for midfield, and that's Caleb Sarong at number three. All of these three guys have great runs in terms of fixture. All these three guys have um, incredible scope, and they've got no buy at the start of the season. Yes, they're all expensive, obviously, but I just this is where you spend the money. All right. Now, who else would I like in this position? I like Zach Merritt. Um, I think that Zach at 8% ownership could do a lot. Nick Dacos, 33%. Can't do it. It's running off name. Look, don't get me wrong. You know, and everyone knows who watches this, how much I personally love Nick Dacos as a player, a super coach player, everything, right? He has the early buy, which is a big no-no. It's shared with a lot of other teams as well, such as Brisbane and Sydney, etc. Um, the likelihood is he's going to get tagged like round one, round zero, I should say. So look, you can have him in your team now, but I guarantee, like after round zero, if he drops a sub ton, there's a likely possibility he's going to drop 30 to 40K by round four, round five. You do not have to pick up Nick Dacos early. Yes, target him to bring him in as soon as you can. Like I think he's going to be a fantastic player, have a fantastic year. He's also coming off plantar fasciitis. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's apparently back in training. I don't know how elevated his training is, but we know Nick is a professional. This plantar fasciitis, though, guys, it lingers. It is not something you just go, oh, I'm over it, see you later. It lingers. It can impact your whole season. How much? I don't know. It's a little bit of an unknown. But why would I start with someone at 630K when I just have a question mark over it? They've got to buy. There's just too many ifs. All right. I'm not doing that. I don't mind. I don't mind sorry, Zach Merritt. Brayshaw, what's he cooking up? All reports, fantastic preseason. I don't mind it. Um, I actually, if I wasn't running Sarong, I'd look at Brayshaw, but I think Sarong is just one A and Brayshaw is one B, right? Um, so LDU, I think that he really can have a breakout, well, another breakout year. I think he really can. 588K. If he fits into your budget and you've got the ability to run him, we also have to be aware. What I want to say is as well. The early buys are a concern. You know what else is a concern? The round 12 buy. You have Carlton, Bulldogs, and Port all in that buy, and a lot of players from starting teams are constituting those players, right? So you've got to be wary of how many of those you start. I did a team the other day, and I had eight starters from that buy round. Eight premiums, not like a couple of rookies here and there that obviously are going to be traded on my team. Eight premiums. You cannot enter the season having eight premiums from the round 12 buy. You will get burned. That 1 week will kill your squad. I guarantee you. So I had to make some hard chats, sorry, hard calls, and I got modified my squad accordingly. All right. LDU is good there. I really, really like Noah Anderson. The Gold Coast run early is insane, and if I could, again, this is an early buy situation, but check out these the teams that they play early. West Coast, Melbourne, and Adelaide. This is 2020. Let's go 2025. West Coast, and then they have the bye. Melbourne, Adelaide, North, Richmond. The first five games. Like that's at least three bottom four teams, maybe four. People are tipping Melbourne to bottom four this year. And Adelaide, who are what Adelaide every year, maybe ninth to, they're a back end team, right? And they're developing and they are getting better, but are they really challenging for the eight? I don't know about that. Um, those first five rounds, when everyone's trying to bring guys in and they can't afford to bring in a Noah Anderson and he's going to be popping off for 140, 150 every week, it is going to be on like Donkey Kong. I love the Noah Anderson pick. I just, and look, I might find myself early in this, coming to round one, I've got the extra 20K and I go, look, I'm just going to go with Anderson and try and work out how I make it through round two without costing too many points. Um, I'd only have one of those guys from that buy round, but still not the best thing to do. You're probably at least going to be dropping, 30, 40 points at very least. And at most, it's probably 60 to 80 that week just by not having one premium in that spot. So I really do like the Noah Anderson pick, and it's one that I've been trying to get in. But no, the other ones obviously in this bracket that most people are looking at. So the one is Christian Petrarca. Is he going to be fit for round zero? Likely. How much is those ribs again getting injured going to impact his play? What is his role? Does he play more forward because he's obviously pops that rib knock and they say, okay, look, we've got midfielders because I don't know if you know, but Melbourne went and drafted two very good midfielders, high end. Now, one of those, Xavier Lindsay, it looks like they're going to be using him off halfback, but the other one, Langford, he is a good player, big body, and he definitely can be replacing some of the minutes inside that are left by Christian Petrarca. So, are they going to put him forward more to avoid him with more contact? I don't know at this stage, and it's a little bit up in the air. So I think there are also question marks on my actual pick, which is Jordan Dawson, right? I am a little bit less optimistic than most. This is probably the one pick in my side that I've ummed and ahed, and I don't really know where it lands, right? What is his role this year? I really, really, really need to see preseason games for me to cement this, right? Is he going to be the 65, 70% mid that is going to enable him to be back to that 115 type scoring? Or is he going to be thrown around again like a Swiss Army knife that we know he is? Because if that's the case, he's a bit of a bust of a pick. So yeah, I am cautiously optimistic because at his price point, I think he's the best value there. He can provide top 10 midfield value, and it's not a bad selection. But yeah, look, as I said, I'm so tempted to find that extra 25 grand just to go to Noah Anderson because I really think that early run is just going to set him aside. But yeah, can't do it, can you? All right. So next, obviously, Clayton Oliver. This is a bit of a no-brainer pick. By all reports, he's had a great preseason. He's the standout mid in the intra-clubs at the D's. I hazard a guess that if you don't have Clayton Oliver in your team right now, you probably should have him in your team. All right. Now, there are some other guys in here that you could look at. There are great guys around this price point. So Adam Chera, Will Ashcroft, Will Day. Let me go down. Here we go. Darcy Parish is one that people are looking at. Willem Drews, I think, out a little bit. I'm not sure. I did see that he's out for a few weeks, maybe been injured. I don't think it was sickness. I think it was actually injury. So that's one to be aware of, which could have some impact for the port side of things. And then of course George Wardlaw is another one. So there's quite a few at this price point that people are looking at. I still like the Chera pick. But the buy has me worried, the round 12 buy. Like even if he goes 110, that buy really is quite limiting. So I'm looking towards staying away at the moment. But there is a chance that I run with it. But yeah, Clayton Oliver's who I'm running here. And then we go to the rookies, right? So five premiums in the midfield with rookies. I personally, I don't think you can run more than five unless you're running one of these rookies in the flex position, because there are so many good rookies available. I'll run through my favorite at this stage. Obviously, it's a little bit unknown. Now, Sam Laylor, one that I wasn't looking to start early, but with Smiley out of the preseason at the moment injured, Sam Laylor has been basically playing midfield. And there is a chance that he pops off pretty early. It's one I'm looking at, but I haven't locked in just purely because I can't afford him in this team. But in other teams and in other ways of going about it, I have looked at it. So that's one that I'm interested in. Jagger Smith is probably the best rookie of the draft in my opinion from a super coach perspective. Will he get the role? That is time will tell. But they cleared space out of their list to get Jagger Smith in. So, why do that if you didn't plan on using him in the guts? I'm hoping he's not a slow burn. I hope he comes out and kills the preseason. By all reports, he's absolutely flying it. So flying. So, not bad. I don't mind Elijah Sartas. I do think that I hope that's how you pronounce it. I do think that this year is going to be the year that he does get major minutes in that team. However, I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, we've been proven to be a little bit wrong, and he played 7 games last year for an average of 39. So, you know, um, let's see. Let's walk before we can run. The Sid Draper, another one that I'm looking at getting in. He by reports again playing a split of. He was actually playing, I think, mainly midfield for the B team. Whether that's just to get him reps as a mid versus AFL ready mids, or whether that's because they're just wanting to get used to running midfield when he's probably going to be playing in the AFL team anyway, more forward than mid. Um, Anyone's guess, but I do think that Sid Draper will get minutes this year. Whether or not that's from round one, that's anyone's guess. I'm a little bit miffed about Ashcroft, and at the moment, I do actually have him in this team. Um, so I'll put him in there for now. The reason is he's actually recovering from shoulder surgery and he is not in full training right now. So I asked Ben this, Ben's had some shoulder issues in the past. And I asked Ben, when you had surgery, like, what was it like coming back? Like, could you run? Like, what you could do is like, not really. Like, because you got to remember when you're running, you use your arms to run, right? And it's constantly, your shoulders constantly bouncing. It can't be good, right? So you got to do like low impact activities for fitness and things like that. How does that impact him early? Brisbane have no requirement to jump with Levi Ashcroft. They really don't. They have guys coming back. So Kiddies obviously won't come back early, but they also have Dodie to squeeze into that team. They've got a premiership squad literally sitting there. They don't need to jump Levi Ashcroft in early if they don't need to, if they don't want to. Do they start him as the sub? Just because he's having an underdone preseason so far. I don't know. I'm currently worried about it, but it's a placeholder at very least, and it's you need to have him in there, right? And then, as I said, Harvey Langford, who I think will definitely get minutes early. All right, so those are sort of like there is obviously Xavier Lindsay. I've actually got him in flex, so I'll put him in there later. Um, but yeah, out of the other, I've actually got a trio of Westfield midfielders here now. Something that happened yesterday, I believe, is that Elliot Yeo went down with an ankle injury, which opens up another opportunity for these young mids. So here I've got Bo Allen. Now, the reason I have Bo Allen here, I've heard he's not really an accumulator, may not be the best Supercoach scorer, but they obviously went for him. They targeted him. He has that mid defender swing, which is useful during the season. So to have that is quite nice. Clay Hall, a guy that didn't really get um, too much opportunity last year, but we do think that he will get a lot more opportunity this year. And the last one, the other trio, or the third is a forward mid here as well, and that's Elijah Hewitt. Now I've heard Elijah Hewitt is in the rehab group at the moment. Like he's doing training, but not all training sessions. He's not in full match sim match training, so that is something to be aware of. Someone that may need to be changed out. But I think he's obviously a high percentage rookie. He's owned in 60% of teams. Everybody knows what he can do and what his scoring potential is like. So we need to go through that, right? All right. So moving on. So you might notice guys like Josh Smiley is injured. I haven't got him in here. I don't have like a Sheldrick or anything like that. I've just tried to go with the guys on field are going to be the scorers. The guys on the bench, I'm hoping to make the money from, right? What we want to try and do as well, though, is absolutely where we can avoid the vest and get the best available rookies on for the cheapest available price. So that is a balancing act, and it's something that I will obviously strive to do. But when you're trying to go for 15 premiums, you need to squeeze it as much as possible. Right, Tristan Cherry is here. He hasn't moved from my preseason all year. Um, so he's M1 for me. I am actually going here. So I had PDK, I had Sean Darcy. PDK has that at round 12 bye. He's got those Pitney issues. I'd like to start him, maybe see where it goes, flip him before the bye. I'm not sure. Darcy is off to Dubai, or no, it's Doha, I think, in Qatar, to try and accelerate his rehabilitation. And the Freo came out with a report saying there is no timeline on his return, which means don't pick him. So yeah, just a bit of that. And there really isn't any other sort of rucks that I'm really interested in other than Max Gawn. So Max Gawn's the one that I love here, but I just don't have the money. Um, what happens with Max Gawn this year? I don't know. Is he overpriced? Probably. Is he still probably the second best ruckman or the first best ruckman? Maybe. It's just a lot of money to pay. I've actually gone right down to Matt Flynn here. So running that, and the reason that I'm able to do that now is because of obviously this lovely man down here, Harry Boyd. Harry Boyd is a supplemental selection from St Kilda. They just picked him up. They put him in Supercoach earlier this week. He's already in 31% of Supercoach teams. He won the McGarry medal for, which is the best and fairest, like the Brownlow for the Sandful last year. 26 years old, mature age recruit. And with Marshall not in training right now, Harry Boyd stepped into the number one ruck role and apparently dominated at Saints Intra Club. Yeah, I think he'll be playing. Do I think he'll be playing round one? I think there's a very, very high chance. If not, he will be playing during the season. How many games? No idea. But he will make cash, his basement price. I would like to have a ruck forward in there just for flexibility purposes, but you can kind of get through the season if you get a ruck injury for a week or two, just with running, playing someone at flex instead. And or you can, if you've got an injury for a longer period of time, you just trade that ruckman out, right? So, um, I'm not as concerned with having an R3 this year as I would in any other year. And there's also an opportunity for him to play games. So, yeah, he's locked in. So now comes the forward line. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, I only count. So as I said, I counted these are 15 premiums, 15 guys who I believe are going to be top of their position, and you don't have to trade them out, right? So I count Mills as that. So we've got four in defence, we've got five in midfield, we've got one in the ruck. So that's 10. All right. So how do we get the another five? Well, let's go with it. All right. So number one, Jason Horn-Francis. I have been umming and ahhing with this pick as well. And then there was a massive fluff piece that comes out yesterday saying, look, they might be looking to use him as a pure midfielder this year because Willem Drew is currently injured, and he apparently has been just absolutely kicking the ball down to play more midfield time. 49% owned. We know what he can do. They brought in more forwards so that he doesn't have to play as a forward. And you know, other than the fact that they have the round 12 bye, which you can sort of work around a little bit, like he's quite clearly going to be in the top six, and he's really the only guy in the, like, from an expensive forward perspective that I can say guaranteed 100%. I have no issues picking him, right? Realistically, he's going to be top three regardless, right? The other guy there I really like is Isaac Rankin, but with him, I'm actually kind of concerned about his hamstrings, right? So we know what a star Isaac Rankin is, but we know when he stretches those legs a little bit too much, and he does it every single game, ping, ping, loves a ping a hamstring, Isaac Rankin. Um, yeah. So look, I think that Isaac could be a good pick as well, but I am not taking that risk at all. We go cheaper options here. So the guys that I do think obviously are going to be top 6 to 10 in the forward line. And look, when I say top 6 to 10, do I think that they could average 90 plus? The sixth averaging a forward here right now is Brett Daniels at 90, right? So can they average 90 plus? That is the question I ask myself when I'm picking these guys. Can Jack McRae average 90 plus? Yes, he absolutely can. He's been playing midfield all preseason, training with the midfield group. Their plan is he is playing midfield, right? None of this half forward rolling up to stoppage rubbish that Bevo was doing. He is going to be 1B sitting next to Jack Steele all season. So, have to have him. Bailey Smith, been playing midfield all preseason. We know what he can do. He's already proven that he can be a top six forward, right? Can he average 90? Yeah, absolutely. He's averaged more than that before, right? So he's in there. Now we get to some cheaper options. Now this is where it gets a little bit not tricky. I was very off this pick. I think I even called him a bust in our previous podcast, right? And now all reports, everything is pointing towards I'm wrong, and I'm okay. Look, a lot of people will tell you, well, they'll. And I used to be this guy, right? I used to be so staunch on a pick, and I used to, shout to the moon about, you can't pick this guy because X, Y, and Z, blah blah. When you're wrong, you're wrong, right? And one of the things that I've learned in the last couple of years is it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to change your mind and new information alters what you were thinking. Um, as long as you can admit it, move forward and correct yourself. Right. Philippou, I think, is one of those picks. Right. Intra club dominated all day playing pure mid. Now, if he's going to play that much midfield time, I don't think he can average under 90. Like it's that simple. At that price, with that ownership percentage, 41%, you're going to get really burned if he does play midfield and you're not on him. There are some pivot points out of this pick as well. There's a lot of rookies that you can go to around that 180K mark, which I will go through. But yeah, there are other options. Um, so I'll go through some other options. So first of all, I think he probably is the most picked player at the moment, and that's Caleb Daniel. Also, again, picture clubs playing half back, picking it up, 70% owned right now. So can all five of those guys average 90 before? Absolutely. Four of those guys have done it before, and then one of those guys in Philippou, um, we all anticipate will, right? So they could all be guys that no, I'm not looking to make money. They are now top six, and I'm looking for one extra forward. So maybe Isaac Rankin, and I'm done. Like seriously. And the last one here. So and here's where I say so fullbacks from these picks, right? There's heaps of them. All right, let's go through some of them. Some people are on Ryan Marich. Not for me at the moment, but I can understand the appeal. Um, Going down, Zane Dersma was apparently playing as the sort of outside mid in not forward. He was actually playing as an outside mid slash winger in intra clubs. Now, does that teases me a little bit, right? I understand that at 194K he does need to perform considerably better in order to make some money, but he's someone that you could obviously fall back to if it needs to be. Tom Lynch, I've had him in my team in a lot of my different teams. How I got the Philippou money was going from Tom Lynch. I don't hate Tom Lynch. I really like Tom Lynch as a selection. I do think that he will make quite a lot of cash. He just needs to get those. Well, first of all, his body needs to be right, but he's in full training. His full match sim. He just needs to be able to string together, two, maybe even three spike games, and he will make you an absolute bucket. Sam Powell Pepper is one. Sometimes he can be a sub, so that's one thing to be aware of. But obviously, he's back as well, full training, all good to go. Mitch Lewis is not back yet, but he's another one that can obviously provide a lot of value and score quite well. Um, if he gets some spike games and kicks a bag. Moving further down, Daniel Curtin's another one here that I really don't mind. Has been apparently trained but in the B team as a midfielder, mid forward player. So he's one that could obviously pop off this year. 158K, so definitely be aware of that. Jack Martin, Geelong just doing Geelong things, probably rejuvenating Jack Martin and turns him into, a prime A1 forward. Could happen. I've seen stranger things. Luke Pedler, what's he like this year? Isaac Kako, 149K. He's in 48% of teams. He's not in my team, but he's in 48% right now. He's another one you could fall back to. Alwyn David Jr. has apparently been playing very well. There's a bit of conjecture over, can they play both in the team? And some Essendon supporters have told me that they would play both. But he's obviously a chance as well. Quinton Narkle, is he in their plans? Joe Berry, he's my F6. So news out of Port saying that Joe Berry it was Chad Corns who's their forward coach. He said if you ask me right now, he would be in our round one team. Just basically flagged him as like he's starting. Right. Look, they targeted him. It was a need selection as well. I have every confidence that Joe Barry absolutely goes gangbusters early in the season. And I think that he's with that information, he should be in most people's teams. The fact he's only in 9% means that maybe people aren't really as up to date on info as we are. But definitely be if you can get Barry in your team, even if it's on the bench, get him in. Absolutely. Now the other guys I want to put in here at the moment. Where is Erasmus? Is he somewhere? There we go, Neil Erasmus. So, look, I think it's Erasmus's time. 47% owned. Had a massive final series in the waffle where I think he averaged like 140 or something like that. Like he's ready to go. But the problem is the role there, right? So he could be used as sub. He's used as sub before. He really needs to get some infield, some midfield minutes and be part of the rotation. I'd love to see him crack somewhere between 40 to 50% CBAs, and then playing either half forward or wing in his off time. But he needs to be in that 22. I think this is a make or break year for him, and he's good enough to do it. And if Frio don't do it for him this year, he will go. I can guarantee you he'll go and he will prove elsewhere that he has a lot of talent. So it's a bit unfortunate. I don't mind Connor Stone here either. I've actually gone with a DPP selection at this point with Max Hall. Now, Max Hall has been playing pure midfield, but in the B team at the Saints. So this pick is a little bit, you know, who's there? Connor Stone's obviously a good one as well. There are quite a few. The other one I really like is Constantine. I think that he probably plays round one for North as that small pressure forward. Had 3 years up at Sydney. The doors opened for him down at North. They traded for him. I would 100% be looking at that. Tom Fullerton, is he now going to be a mainstay down there, or are they going to go with Tom Campbell? Um, that's going to be an interesting selection. So there's honestly the forward rookies. There are so many that could make an impact this year that are all fairly cheap. Rookies. I don't think we're really lacking at the moment. I think it's more how do we navigate this flex position? How do we navigate these buys? And how do we maximize our points on field? And then the last one, as I mentioned, for the flex position, I've actually got in here Xavier Lindsay. So by all reports, Lindsay has locked up a halfback position, which is just amazing for Supercoach. What we know about these midfield rookies that come in to the system, highly touted, great use of the ball. They want to blood them early in a bruise feed position. They throw them into the halfback line. They let them cook. So a la Nick Dacos, a la Sheasel, McKercher, etc. Can Lindsay be that this year? Yeah, maybe. Yep. I don't see why not. Right. And that is how we get to 15 premiums, right? So let's save that. So just to recap, so four in the back line, five in the midfield, that's nine, one at the ruck, 10, and then five up forward, 15. With decent rookies, albeit, you could probably go a little bit more expensive on the bench here, sort of bolster that up. That will take shape as the season progresses, obviously. It's very important that you get the right rookies because the right rookies will determine everything about cash flow, which determines everything about the back end of your team come round 15 when you're trying to maximize your 23rd player, right? You got to have the cash. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I will see you in the next one and have a great day. Cheers.